Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Lauren.
Good morning.
Is Dominic. We have two Dominics. Okay. Danik is here. Good.
Hi, good morning. Give me a second. Um, I'm up.
All right.
Okay.
You want to see the faces? Can we get faces up here for everybody? You have to look at my face. Lauren, maybe I'll start with you. Um, is there anything in particular you want me to go over in regard to this last session?
Nothing in particular, just like chapter 14 is kind of what I'm working on right now, like NPV.
Okay.
Just kind of that general topic is what I'm doing.
That sounds mighty good. So let's do that. That can be a little tricky. So let me go over here. That goes there. I'm getting there. Okay, come on, come on. There. Okay, let's share. Okay, okay. Lauren mentioned wants to talk a little bit about capital budgeting decisions. Here, what we're talking about is discounting cash flows. I didn't use the word discount, I don't think, in my speech the other day, but that's what this is all about, discounting future values to a present value to see if it's a project that's worth doing. Just like if you have an investment today, you bought a bond and it's a 10-year bond, and you've held the bond a couple of years and you collected a couple of years of interest. If someone came up to you in year three and said, that $10,000 bond you have, I'll give you 8,000 for it right now. Would you do it? You might or you might not, depending what that present value of the 10,000 is today. If it was more than eight, then you would not accept the deal. If it was more, you would. Capital budgeting. These are big projects. We're expanding a factory. We're building something huge. And we have to do some screening. We have our own thresholds, our hurdle rates that we want to meet, and we'll certainly, not certainly, but we'll probably have a couple of different ways of skinning this cat. Maybe we would do this or that. And we put together our best numbers. And here they're going into the time value. Again, you stop me as I skip over this. I mean, if $100 is invested today, how much will you have in 1 year? How about that? 108, and then you compound it, and the next year you're going to have 117 almost. You get the idea. What the net present values are about is taking that 116.64 you just saw and discounting it back to the present value, what it's worth today. Okay. So again, I'm certainly not going to talk about the formulas. I would be, it's not false modesty. I have trouble doing these formulas. That's why God invented the table, the present value tables, they're called. And we have one for a single number and one for an annuity. Here is the present value of $1 under these 5 periods and 3 percentage rates. What do all of these numbers equal? What do all of these numbers equal? We're at number one. It represents $1. These numbers are what $1 is worth today under these scenarios. And I'll talk about it a little more because it's important to punch this into everybody. In other words, $1 today is worth $1. After one period, it's only worth 90 cents. The next period, it goes down to 86, etc. So in the third year, 751, let's pretend that's a big number, $751,000 for an investment that's going to pay you 10 million in 20 years. If someone came to you today and offered you 800,000 for that, you'd probably take it. So we have the table of present value of one number, unless you like to use the formulas, okay? How much would you have to put in the bank today? In other words, what's the present value of $100 at 10%? Well, here it is. And we didn't use the formula. We went to that table that we just saw. We went to 10%, 5 years, and there was the conversion right here, the 621. Then we talk about what's called an annuity. An annuity is an equal payment amount at the same interest rate over a finite period of time. Like I'm collecting my pension and Social Security, and my finite amount of time is when I drop dead. But most investments have 10 years, 20 years, whatever. An annuity, like a bond, that's the classic annuity, a bond. So you bought a tract of land on which payment will be due each year. We have to pay $60,000 a year for the next 5 years. What is the present value? Well, we go to the other table. We go to what they're calling Appendix B, the table for the present value of an annuity. And again, these are all equal to $1. Our annuity was 60,000 for what was it? 5 years, I think. Yeah, 60,000, 5 years, 12%. I'm looking at 3.605. 3.605 is the conversion, and there it is. There it is. So hopefully we're comfortable just reviewing what you already hopefully learned in 230 with the bonds, the present value of money. If the interest rate is 14%, how much would you have to put in the bank today? Here, it's another annuity. You want $100 a year at the end of the next 5 years. Well, that's $500 in future value. That's the future value. You're going to get 500. What's it worth today? 14%. We go to the table and work that out. Okay. So that's what we're talking about as we get into the net present value. We have a project that is expected to pay us this amount over the period of the project. It's going to cost us this amount. And so we're going to consider the positive piece, positive cash flow or cash outflows. The cost of capital is regarded as the most appropriate rate for the discount rate. That typically means that's your anchor point. What are the interest rates like today? The cost of capital, the average rate of return that you're paying right now. If you're financing, if you're paying off a debt, a current debt to a lender, perhaps, whatever that guy is charging you, that's probably pretty much what the market is right now. So net present value, let's divide and conquer. To get the net present value of a project, we calculate the present value of the cash inflows and calculate the present value of the cash outflows. Subtract the difference. If we have a positive number, it might be a go on the project. And they're just pointing the obvious out here. If the net present value is positive, well, that's a good thing. We're going to make money. That doesn't mean we're going to do the project. If it turns out we're going to make $100 on an investment of 10 million, well, that is $100 we made legitimately and above what the project cost, but that's cutting it a little too close. Zero, it still says acceptable, but no one's going to do a project just to break even. And then, of course, if it's a negative, if the cash outflows exceed the inflows, we're stuck. Hey, are you hiding? Where's On? Net present value method. Let's look at how we use present value to make a decision. And here we go. They've been offered a 5-year contract, huh? Well, the cost today, we have to buy a piece of equipment for whatever this project is, and we have to set aside $100,000 in cash, calling it working capital, just in case we need to rough out a few edges. In 3 years, it's going to cost us $30,000 to reline the equipment, kind of like Trump's pool, huh? Relining the equipment. The salvage value is $5,000, and here's our annuity. We have $750 minus these two expenses, which comes to, I believe, $80,000 or $180,000. What do all these numbers have in common, starting with the relining? Those are all the future values. Future. We have to discount all of these guys back to present day value, present day equivalency. So they're giving us a couple of clues on this. At the end of 5 years, the working capital will be released. It means we never needed it, okay? So we're putting it back in our bank account. Lester is using a discount rate of 10%. Should we do this project? And again, here's our $80,000 annuity representing the profit. Now, if these numbers were different each year, then you'd have to do each year individually. You couldn't use the annuity table. Here we go. Set your little, I love the word template, your little picture up here. List on the left what we're doing. The years are important. And here we go. Here are the cash flows, whether good or bad. So we start the project with 160 to buy the equipment, and we set aside 100,000. That's what it's worth today. I hand you a check today for $100,000. That's what a present value. That's what present value is today. Okay. We know we're going to earn a profit on this project if all goes well of $80,000 a year. That is an annuity. So we go to the annuity table, multiply it out, and that comes to 303,280. Another way to say it is if we want to have a total profit of 400,000, the 80 times the 5, we have to put 303,280 in the bank today. Relining the equipment, that's coming in 3 years, and that's the present value of just the one number. So we go to that table, the present value table of a single number. We discount it back to 22,530. We need 22,530 if we want to come up with 30,000 in the future. Same thing with the salvage. Well, in 5 years, we're going to get $5,000, but that's only worth 3,100 today. And finally, we release the 100,000 in working capital. But when we release it in 5 years, it's only worth $62,100 today. So we take the cash outflows, of which there are three, and we subtract I should have said it the other way, add the inflows, subtract the outflows. This project yields a net present value of almost $86,000. We would do the project, okay? We would do this project. So let me continue. Now, one thing we didn't talk about here is depreciation. And I'm a little bit surprised because depreciation is not a cash outflow, so it's not deducted in doing any of these net present value projects, not a cash flow, and discounted cash flows automatically provide for the return of that. But there's a tax implication, and we did not do that here. So they might have said that there's a 30% net tax, let me say that right, 30% income tax on your profit. We would have to take that $80,000 and work out what the tax would be, including the number on the depreciation. That's all. So does that help you out a little bit, Lauren, on net present value, how we do it?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. You okay on?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I love to tease on. She's in high school. Internal rate of return. Okay. This is the second method. It's the rate of return promised by an investment over the useful life. And you know what it really is? It starts out as the rate that is going to make the net present value zero. If we want to break even, what's the rate? Well, we don't want to break even, but we certainly want to know what we have to hurdle. And again, we're looking at a project here. Look at this, the same exact project. If we wanted to break even, our interest rate would have had to be 20.5%. And you could get a better deal on, no one's going to pay 20.5% interest unless you're, borrowing from the mafia or something, okay? Discount, the internal rate of return is the break even. So let's see what we have here. They can buy a new machine costing $104,320, and it's going to save $20,000 a year, 10 years. Well, if we divide out the 104,320 by the 20, we're going to get the present value conversion number. Okay? So take a peek at this. This will be on the test, I think. We have an outflow of 104,320 that's going to save us $20,000 a year, 10-year life. What we don't know is the discount rate, the interest rate. You divide that out, it gives you the conversion. So we know it's, I have to look again because I always forget. It's 10 years. 10 years. We're going to have to go to our present value table and find 10 years and take our pinky, our forefinger, and just work your way across until you find that 5.216. Okay? This is not terribly hard as long as you remember you're taking the original investment amount divided by the annual or periodic savings to get the conversion number, if you will, the present value. In other words, the present value of $1, and you work it out from there. So we just learned that it's 14%. If the internal rate of return is equal to or greater than the company's required rate of return, then the project works. We'll do it. You can also call it the hurdle rate. Companies say we will not do a project unless it gives us a 12% return. And we have a project that's going to be nicely profitable, but it's only 10%. Well, we're pretty snobby. We're not going to do it until we get a 12% return. What that means is they feel they can find something else better than that 10% return. The expected annual cash flow is 22. The required investment, this is the same exact thing. The same exact thing. The required investment now, present value divided by the 22,000 will give us the 12%. And how did we do that? We went to the present value table. We went to 5 years and ran our finger across till we saw 3.605. The internal rate of return. Well, they're comparing the two methods. Net present value is easier to use. I'm not sure that it is, but this guy says so. Net present value, we assume the cash inflows will be worked at the discount rate. There'll be no change. And the internal rate of return method is a little different. What they're saying here, everybody, is the net present value method is the way to go for the most accurate present value calculations. Sometimes you have to do a project even though it's going to cost you a lot of money. You have no choice. And it's the same thing as we've been doing. Home furniture, they have a choice. They can modify or overhaul an old truck or buy a new one. Their discount rate is 10%. Here is the old truck. We will have to overhaul it now. That's a present value of $4,500. Here is an annuity at 10%. Here is the salvage value in the future and salvage value now. As opposed to buying a new truck, which is going to cost us $6,000 a year to operate, and we get a big salvage value. Which project would we do? Well, you can't look at this and make a decision. You have to peel it back a little bit like we've been doing. We buy the new truck. Look at when we buy the new truck. Well, the present value we're buying it is the $21,000. This is an annuity, 1 to 5 years. It's a 5-year annuity at 10%. We go get the conversion. The salvage value now and in 5 years is a single number. The 9 is the present value. Wow. We bought a new truck. It's going to cost us almost 33. Maybe it's better to keep the old truck and keep that thing going. Now, I guess not, huh? Because to overhaul the truck is going to cost us $4,500 now, but then our operating costs go way up to $10,000. We have salvage value of the old truck. We're selling a truck for $250. That truck must be in some shape, huh? So the net present value is $43,000. What would you rather have somebody take out of your pocket? $32,000 or $42,000? And that's the simple decision to be made here. Okay. Assume all the cash flows related to an investment in a super tanker have been estimated except for the salvage value in 20 years. Using a discount rate of 12%, management has determined that the net present value of all the cash flows is $1.04 million. How large would the salvage value need to be to make this investment attractive? And again, we figured out the present value factor and divided out. So the equation can be used to determine if the salvage value is at least $10 million, the net present value of the investment would be 0. And I don't think you're going to get a $10 million for that, okay? What can you do with these different projects? You can delay them if you can. if it's not a real urgent project, or expanded if conditions are favorable. If you think interest rates are coming down, maybe you could play that game. Wait 6 months, wait a year, and see if you can get in for a lower rate, or cut bait, cut losses if things are going poorly. The ability to consider these real options adds value to many investments. The value of these options can be quantified using what is called real options analysis, which is beyond the scope of the book. So you'll learn that when you transfer UCSB or someplace, and then you can come back and show me what that's all about, okay? Investment projects. Obviously, we want to do the one that gives us the best bang for the buck. So we're going to screen our projects to determine whether it's acceptable, and we're going to pick the one we like. And we're going to rank the alternatives from most to least appealing, high to low. So when we're using this method, and we're still talking about the internal rate of return method, the higher the internal rate of return, the more desirable the project. The net present value of one project can't be compared to the net present value of another one unless they're equal. And that means we're a small company. Our project is only going to pay us $10,000. Our competitor, theirs is going to pay them $100,000. But their cost of doing that is going to be like 25%, and ours is only, say, 5%. So the little guy there is doing better. And we call this the profitability index. And I know you're going to see those two words on the test, the profitability index. The higher the profitability index, which is the net present value divided by your original investment. So project A pays 10%, project B pays 20%. You will do project B before you even look at project A, okay? The higher the profitability, the better. Remember where you heard that. And then we have a couple of other methods. The payback, super easy, and the simple rate of return, super easy. They don't consider the time value of the money, but they're worthwhile. I mean, any project we used to do, we would look at the payback right away because that was easy to do. You didn't have to go into any present value tables. You just said, we just invested $1 million and we're in our third year here and we've recovered 600,000 of that. We're 60% done on the payback. The payback period, the length of time it takes for a project to recoup its initial cost, that's all. When the net annual cash inflows are the same each year, this formula is what we're looking at. The investment required divided by the annual cash flow. They're putting in an espresso bar. It costs $140,000. It has a 10-year life. It will generate $35,000 a year over the next 10 years. They have a requirement on the payback. Our company policy is if the payback is less than 5 years, then we're okay. What's the payback? It's just going to be the 140 divided by the 35,000. That's pretty easy. 4 years. We get our money back in 4 years. Now, we know we didn't get back the equivalent of 140,000. Present value-wise, it's probably closer to 125. But this is a good down and dirty look at an investment. And if you're recouping your money quickly, just looking at it payback-wise, you're doing okay. According to the company's criterion, management would invest to get paid back in 4 years. Evaluation of the payback. It's a good screening tool. It really is. It's psychological. I mean, people don't have to be accounting guys to know if you're getting an investment paid back in 4 years, that's going to go on for 10 years, you're doing good. And it just shows you which investments pay you back quickly. Payback method. The problem with it is, I said the problem with, there we go, ignores the time value of the money. Like I say, that 140 is not right. We know it's in the 120s, but we still got our 140 back. And it ignores the cash flows after the payback period. What if the project fell apart after the fourth year? Well, that would not make that 4-year payback look too good. This is not hard either. What if the cash flows differ from year to year? Well, again, you're going to add up each year until you get back to the payback. So this is a 1,000, 0. So we don't have an annuity here. We have different numbers. Here's a project, an initial investment of, an initial investment of 4,000 on even cash flows. Well, we get a payback of 1,000. After 2 years, it's still 1,000. After 3 years, it's what, 3,000. And then finally, at the end of 4 years, we get our money back. If the payments are a partial year, you would just prorate that. That's all. If this last one was, say, 500, then you would have it 4.5, the way it would work out. So I don't think the payback method is too tough. And the simple rate of return is just your GAAP net income. This project, if we include depreciation and amortization and depletion, things like that, we will come up with a net income. We can get this right from the income statement. Your annual sales revenues minus expenses, including depreciation, gives you the return. That's all. Cost 10 years, cost 140,000. What's the simple rate of return? Well, 25%. We spent 100,000 and we are taking out expenses of 65. That comes back to the 35 that they were talking about. 25% simple rate of return. Not recommended for a variety of reasons. Again, it ignores the time value of the money. Okay. And then at the end, they talk about a post audit. During the project, you are going to be doing a lot of auditing. You in the accounting department, you're going to be looking at that project almost every day. You're going to be talking to the engineers and the purchasing people. You might be talking to the people doing the work, the blue collar guys, to get a sense of how it's going. And then at the end, of course, you want to see how you did. Okay. So what do you think, Lauren? You're an expert now with this. Is Lauren still there? Lauren's gone.
No, I'm here. I think
Lauren, you're up on top.
Crystal clear now. Thank you for explaining everything.
Crystal clear. Does anybody want me to go over anything else? Anything particular you wanted to talk about, Danica or Ann or Bianca?
Wait, I have a question. So is chapter 12 not gonna be on the test like at all?
No, we skipped chapter 12.
Wait, so can I still like do like the extra credit because I went into chapter 12 Smart Book and it say like it's not available for extra credit.
Well, that's a new question. I'm sure let me ask Cornelia.
Okay.
And she can open it up for you. You know what chapter 12 is though? It's cash flow statements. And the reason we don't go over it here is in 230, there was a big chapter just on cash flow statements. But you guys always want to, scoop up some extra credit, and I'll leave this up to my boss, okay? Good question. Anybody else got anything? Who's transferring after this semester? Anybody transferring? No? Lauren, what do you got?
I had like a similar question for chapter 12, because I was trying to also do the extra credit, but it wasn't working on the smart book. But the summary is due today if we want to do the extra credit for chapter
Well,
12.
don't worry.